I'm not dancing for you.
Oh no. Technical difficulties here. All right, there we go. We're live now. It said we weren't, but we are. Okay. Well, there we go. Welcome back to Skyfire Live, everybody. I'm your host, Matt Sloan, CEO of Skyfire. Unfortunately, Ben is on a very long conference call with the FAA, which sounds super exciting. I know you guys are all super jealous. But joining us today is our good friend, Gregg Schkade, who is the UAS team leader for Livingston County, Michigan. Thanks so much for joining us, man. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I know you've been a faithful viewer of the Matt and Ben show, as we like to call it. So we're so glad to have you here on the program today. But if you would just tell me a little bit about your program. What do you guys do? Is it combined operations, police and fire, and all that kind of stuff, and all the great.
So we started out about 3 years ago. Actually, it started out as a kind of a fluke on a dive team training. We wanted to see what a drone could do for us in a dive team call out. So we were doing some training with it, looking at the divers from overhead, and then we started putting more things into practical use for the drone program in terms of accident reconstruction, pre-building, pre-planning, and then we started growing more and more into the fire service side of it. So right now we cover a majority of the fire side, but we do work with local law enforcement, and including the state police, training with them on just everyday tactics of public safety with the UAS program.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's actually how we met, through our good buddy Mike Darrow at Michigan State Police. So very cool. So you guys, and we had this conversation last week too, you guys are actually using the Inspire One platform, which is one of my favorites still, even though there's a lot, sort of newer stuff. I think it was a really reliable platform. So tell us, what is it about that platform in particular that you like?
The usability of it. It's it's a workhorse. We've had pretty good sized payloads on it, 2, 3, 4 pounds of payload that we've been taking with it. Using the Stork's arms for it, the ability for thermal and optical cameras. It's just a good all-around drone, and it can take a beating. We've had it out in some pretty good heavy winds. We've dropped it into the ground a few times, but it just keeps on going.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely one of our more robust platforms. And if Ben were here, he would tell you the story, or at least the way he likes to tell it, that I crashed an Inspire One into the river. We all know the truth of those of us who were there know the truth of what happened. But it actually it did land in the water, and then we dried it out and it flew again. So I mean, it really pretty incredible how much beating that thing will take. So one of the things, or I should say the primary thing we're talking about today, is dive team operations. So tell me a little bit about how you guys incorporated into your dive team operations, and was that the primary sort of goal, was to get this thing for dive rescue, or that just kind of evolved into it?
It kind of evolved into it. I should say it was more of a door opener for us. Because we tried it on the one training, and within a couple months, we started utilizing it more and more on other trainings, realizing that we can do overhead surveillance on our divers, up to 20 and 30 feet in depth of water, just keeping an eye on them if they're doing free dives, or if we need to direct them in a certain direction based on water depth from what we can see in the air versus on the land. And then it came around to an actual dive team call out for a drowning victim on one of our lakes. And we got called out. I was there within about 7 minutes, and had the drone up. I was able to get up above the water in about a minute and a half or so. And because it was still relatively new technology for us, and we haven't proved it out yet, what I had noticed was our victim within about 37 seconds is what I had on the timer. And I had marked it on the map. However, we couldn't exactly send our dive team over right away, because we had witnesses on shore say that this was a a witness drowning. They had a last scene point, so we had to direct our crews in that last scene point. Well, not too long afterwards, we were able to get crews freed up, and we kept searching in certain areas, and then we went back to that same area where we had found, where I found on the map, and sure enough, that's where the victim was. And we checked it with GPS on the drone. We checked it with GPS via handheld, and we also used side scan sonar, and all three matched up. So right then and there, that was our game changer. So we incorporated from that point on. Drones are to be deployed on any dive team call out first thing before we even put boats in the water. We get the drones out, get them looking from up above to find where the potential victim could be based on last seen locations.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I mean, you hear, definitely there's adoption in a lot of different facets, public safety, but to sort of make it part of the SOP, I think is really exciting, because so few people have said, like, this is so valuable to us that we are going to absolutely change the way we do operations.
Yeah.
I can't think of I mean, we always talk about this is the most useful thing since the fire hose and the fire.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there are very few things that, like, when you get a new tool, actually changes the way that you approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you sent us a couple of great pictures and videos and stuff, so I want to show everybody those. So let me get these pulled up here. This first one, so many buttons to push. Let's see here. This first one here is a triathlon, you said.
Yep. So this is a triathlon that happens out in one of our local cities, and we'll get called out whenever they do this triathlon to do overwatch on the swimmers. We'll have our dive team out there, so they'll be out in the boats. You can see one of the boats in the upper right-hand corner, and then we'll launch from the shore side and just kind of hover above the swimmers, keep an eye on them, and then if we need to, we can fly out one of our self-inflating or auto-inflating life rings to them, so that way they have something to hold on to if they start going down.
And have you found this to be like a useful tool rather than just looking from the water line across?
Absolutely. This is, you can see more from 50 feet than you can from 5 feet at shore. It's the one time we took it out there to try it, we actually had a Phantom 3 Pro as one of our first drones that we tried it with, and that proved it was amazing. And ever since then, we fly. We'll have actually multiple drones out there watching multiple sides of the swimming area. So if one can't catch it, the other ones will.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let me pull up the next one here. We've got. Tell me about this one. Oh, let's see. No, just kidding. Technical difficulties. That seems to be the name of the game these days. Let's see here. QuickTime player. There we go. Okay. Start this puppy from the beginning here. Okay, can you see that one now?
Yep. So this is again on one of our lakes that we have here within our jurisdiction. This was a plane that had flipped over, a seaplane that had flipped over in some strong waves. We knew that the occupants were out, but we wanted to get some eyes out to just get a visual on the plane, see where it was at, see if it was drifting anywhere, if there's any hazmat potentials that we needed to get some float booms out to surround it with. Fortunately, the tanks were sealed up on it good enough. We didn't have any concerns on that. But again, instead of having to put a boat in the water to get out there and get up close and personal to it, we were able to do that from a shore almost 1,000 feet away and not have to put anyone in the water.
Yeah, that's amazing too, because I would imagine you'd see a sheen if gas was coming out of it, so you'd know that was going to be a concern.
Yeah.
Obviously, smoke, fire, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm glad that everybody made it out too. That makes this a little bit easier to
yeah, it was very low speed, and it was, like I said, the front end just caught a high wave and it flipped over on itself.
Gotcha. Yeah, as a pilot, that makes me feel good that everybody made it out there.
I agree.
So let's move on to the next one. This one, let's see here. this one was a still image here. So tell me about this one.
Yep. So this was that first trial run that we had on the one lake where I identified where the location of our victim was. That area that's circled is actually our victim, and we kind of dubbed it splashdown. When they hit the bottom of the lake bed, they create a dust plume, a silt plume, and that silt plume is actually a lot bigger than what our victim was, obviously. And that picture was taken 37 seconds after takeoff. And the pontoon boat you see at the very top right there, that is actually where they claim the last scene point was. However, there was some misinformation on their part on what they thought was last scene point. So we had some difficulty getting a factual last scene point. But like I said, the GPS coordinates in relation to that picture and marked with side scan sonar, everything showed accurate. So
this is really the one that got it all going for you guys.
Yep. Yeah, this was the winner right here. This is the one that started everything.
Now, so you said that this is the silt plume that we're looking at here.
Yep.
Do you think that in the experience you've had with it, do you think you would have actually been able to see the victim had that plume not have been there?
Possibly, based on that lake and the water conditions, and that's 16 feet of water right there where the victim was sitting. And that lake is extremely cloudy. So there's a very good chance based off of what they were wearing and the way the sun was sitting that we could have potentially had seen them, yes. And we've seen even deeper with some of our training mannequins that we use. We've been able to go up to close to 30 feet deep and still be able to see where either splashdown was or where a victim potentially could have been.
Yeah, that's spectacular. I mean, it's really, water, I think, is one of the things that, people talk a lot about, being able to use the UAS, being able to see clearly, looking whether it's a swimmer or a shark or whatever it is you're trying to look for. I think, it is really amazing the perspective that you get,
right,
by being a few feet up. This is the one that blew me away. So let me switch over here real quick to this guy. This video is amazing to me.
So this actually started out as another possible drowning, which ended up being a false call, fortunately. And we had one of our inspires out with a 640 thermal XT camera, and we wanted to see what the water would look like with someone in it. So we sent one of our divers out for a swim. That's him swimming off the dock. You can see right there. And after this video, we've done a lot of extensive training in different temperatures, different lakes and whatnot of having someone either swim or dropping a dummy in the water. And surprisingly, if you drop a dummy in the water from, in 15, 20 feet of water and let it sit there and the boat leaves, the water will actually show up even more distinctive in terms of thermal imaging, that there's a potential body there in that water. And the reason for that is you're disrupting the thermocline. About 12 feet or so is when you're going to start hitting your thermocline in the water. So when that body submerges, you're disrupting that thermocline, which is going to bring a lot of the cold water to the surface, and you'll be able to see the difference in relation to the water around it. And like I said, we've done a lot of extensive training and testing back and forth with thermal cameras in regards to this.
Yeah, this is amazing to me because, one of the things that, when we talk to people about thermal imaging, one of the first things we say is you can't see through water. You're not actually trying to see through water here.
Right.
And what's amazing is that, you said it takes about 10 minutes for that to return.
Right.
So, even if somebody had been there within the last 10 minutes, you'd be able to see it. I should also add that it's completely dark outside, right? Is that right?
This is about 10 o'clock at night, which is why we were kind of experimenting with the thermal cameras at night. Is we can't see in the water, obviously, with the optical cameras. So we want to see what thermal will look like. And this is in the dead of summer, so the temps are outside right now, probably close to 75, 80, which is probably cold for you guys.
I was going to say, yeah, I like your dead of summer better than my dead.
Yeah, for us, we're sweating in that.
Yeah.
But the water temp was probably about 70, 75 degrees or so. And then when we hit our thermocline, it gets pretty cold. So, and that's only 3-4 feet of water he's swimming through. And when you hit that thermocline and you flip that water around, it's going to make a drastic change in color. Unfortunately, I don't have any images to show you of that. I'll have to get some for you next time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this it says it all. I mean, it really. There's another buddy of ours who I think you've met, Mike Pruitt from Wayne Township. Well, he's now with Bargersville Fire in Indiana. They had a great video of a suspect they were chasing. He decided to jump into a river, and typically that's something where we would say, the thermal wouldn't help, but you could actually see his head bobbing up, as it floated down the river.
Yeah.
But I mean, this in the right palette, in the right setting. Now, did you, I mean, it really can make a huge, give you a huge indication where somebody might be. Did you guys play around a lot with the settings? I mean, does this look the same in many of the different ones, or?
Surprisingly, I get more definition using what would be fusion in the palette settings for the XT. You can try a black and white or hot white and hot black and all that, but the fusion just gives me more definition, and I found this to be better than the other ones. Okay. And yes, we have played around a lot with the different settings in terms of what palettes to use and elevation, angles and whatnot. So, but yeah, ultimately, angle doesn't really matter. It's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part. This is something we talk a lot about internally. As we develop our subsequent training classes and stuff, is how to talk about real concrete stuff that you can try with thermal that will actually make a difference versus just like, well,
right,
we got 16 color palettes, give them all a shot and see what pops. That's not
exactly. And we'll put targets in the water to look at, and we'll record the video and flip through all the palettes and review it later just to see if we notice something different or out of the ordinary or something that works better than the others. And some people like solid colors. I prefer the fusion. I know a lot of the other agencies are starting to use the fusion palette more often, just because of the definition it gives you.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, whoa, this is definitely something we haven't seen before. And I think it's really illustrative of the power of this technology, because this is not something you get from any other equipment when you're out looking for this guy.
Right.
That's super awesome. I appreciate you sharing that one. Let's take a look here. This is, let's see if I can switch these over here. All right, here we go. Tell me what's going on here.
So we were called out to a neighboring department for a search for a potential drowning. And this is a pretty quick flowing river system. But they had no record of where he was. And the problem with that river is it's really shallow, so it's hard getting boats in there. You can get some small flat bottom stuff in there, but it's just real hard to navigate. They called us up, and we were able to traverse close to 2.5-3 miles of river in each direction, not a problem. We later found out that the victim had gotten out of the river much further away from where we were at. So it was a good outcome, but we were able to clear a lot of this area very quickly without having to put multiple boats in the water. And especially being during the daytime, this was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and manpower was short. So with 2 drones, we had an Inspire 1 and a Phantom 4 Pro up, and we were able to cover a lot of ground really quick.
Now, would you have had to search this entire length here with a boat, and how long do you think that would have taken?
Oh, this would have taken hours, a long time if we didn't have the drones up. Not to mention multiple boats, if we could even get them, and then the time delay to get the boats to the scene would have been even longer. So you're looking at an all-day operation if we didn't have the drones out there.
All day versus 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Like that.
Yeah, we were in and out in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I mean, like you talk about the cost benefit of this thing. I mean, that's whether or not you have to pay extra, or it's just the amount of man hours and time and effort and all that kind of stuff that you're putting in. I mean, there's definitely a cost to that. So
right.
Not to mention the fact that if you had found the victim more quickly, they might still be alive after 10 minutes versus 6 hours or something.
Right. Yeah. We have a golden hour rule from time we get the call to the time we go from rescue to recovery mode. So if we can get them out quicker, that just gives us more time for that rescue mode to potentially save them.
Yeah, that sure makes a whole lot of sense. I think we've got, let's see, we've got one more here, and then I'll show the picture of your rig. There we go. Okay, what's going on this one?
All right, so this is one of our Pelican setups. This is off our Inspire One platform. We use these as marking buoys. So if we identify a potential victim or a location that we need to check, we can deploy this off of the Stork's arms on our Inspire, and it self deploys. It's got a weight on it that drops to the bottom, anchors it in place, and it keeps it from the device keeps it from flipping anymore, so it won't pale out any more rope. And it only weighs maybe 6-8 ounces, so it's not that heavy. And we've got 4 of these within our team. So if we need to, we can put 2 drones out looking for the potential victim, mark it, send the teams out to look for them. We also have a grappling hook that we can use to go out and retrieve them. Need that if they go out and search the area and they can't find it, they leave our buoy, we can go out and pick it up with the Inspire and the grappling hook and not have to worry about sending another boat out wasting resources.
So that's pretty cool. It probably takes a little bit of skill to get this thing done.
It's taken me a lot of practice, but fortunately with a 3D printer and some creative technology, we've been able to get pretty skilled at it.
Yeah, that's what I love about this industry is that we are inventing as we go along. I mean, 3D printing, we last week actually 3D printed a light mount for somebody who needed it at the last minute, and so much innovation going on, and the combination of what you guys come up with in the field and 3D printing and honestly good old fashioned duct tape and stuff like that. I mean,
that's pretty much what it sums it up to.
Yeah, but that's awesome. I mean, can you imagine like, if you got a fire truck and you're like, oh, we just 3D printed an extra little piece we stuck on this thing. And it's just, that's what I love about this is like the innovation continues even after the product is delivered. So that's super cool. I was wondering why it was spinning so quickly in the water. Now I realize there's a weight on it. And
it's got a little steel weight with a thin thread that's attached to it. And it pales itself out as it sinks down to the bottom there.
It's very, very cool. So let's show the rig here that we're talking about. So you mentioned the Stork. For those of you who aren't familiar, taking advantage of the landing gear there on the bottom of the Inspire One. Let me share this thing here real quick. That is one thing I really do miss about the Inspire platform is that retractable landing gear, which allows you to drop things. So what do you say? It looks like you've got some, just a snorkel and mask here hanging underneath, but you can do all kinds of stuff with that rig.
Yeah, we've got small bags that we've got made up. We kind of repurposed a lot of equipment. So we got these little bags that are made up that we can put radio batteries in, radios, masks and snorkels. We've taken some lighter fins out to boats. You name it, we can get it out there. We've even got a remote control winch that mounts to the bottom. So if we need to lower something down, we can lower it down with a winch system. Wow. And it's slow, but it works. Yeah,
well, and that's what it's all about, right? It's just, like I said, taking what you got and making it work. So yeah. So obviously we've talked a lot about dive operations. What would you say your other most common mission sets are, that you guys are primarily flying?
We're doing a lot of like structural fire overwatch. So anytime we get dispatched out to a structure fire, we'll have one of our pilots fly over the fire scene and do continuous circles around a pattern basically around the building, and just relay information that we need to our incident commander. In the last few calls that we've had, it's actually been very useful. We've had possible attic fires, and we've been able to determine using the thermal camera that there was no heat in the attic, and ended up being an ashtray outside in the backyard. So we've been able to look at stuff like that. And then we do a lot of reconstruction with it as well. We'll do using the Pix4D software. We'll 3D model some of our larger buildings that we have catch fire. And if it's an investigation, we can use that tool later on for our investigators.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you, because we've been talking a lot about what makes programs fail, and obviously your guys' program is not failing. In fact, it's quite the opposite. But in that vein, what would you say was the biggest challenge, or continues to be the biggest challenge for adoption?
The biggest thing is communication. In terms of if it had to be one thing, it's going to be communication for a success or fail. Communicating what we can do, what we can't do, and the fact that we're here. And our chief is very, very supportive. Our deputy chiefs are very, very supportive. Some of our other team leaders are very supportive of what we do. So we're getting a lot of momentum, a lot of support from our public safety community. And it's all down to communication and getting the word out that these are good tools, they're useful, they're saving time and money, they're saving lives. We've had a lot of good successes with it so far, and it's proven itself.
Yeah, and that's primarily the reason we're doing these webinars, is to show people, a lot of the successes that have been had, and get people to understand that this really is a useful tool. There are still people out there who I think that these things are toys, and you guys are just flying around and having fun. But I mean, this is concrete evidence that you're making a difference, and I really appreciate you sharing that stuff with us too. And I think those of you who are watching, who are thinking about starting a program, this is really good fodder for you to take to your command staff. So on that note, I wanted to add that the platform that you love so much, the Inspire One, we are still doing the giveaway. Our friends at WS Charlie have a couple of them left, and offered to give one away with us. So if any of you who are watching, or Greg, if you want to sign up too, they're
worth every penny. I can't encourage it enough.
Yeah, no, it's great. We still have ours and still fly them occasionally. So if you guys are interested in signing up for that, you can go over to our website. And I will also add, just following up on the conversation we just had about why programs fail, is that we would love to hear from you. If you are having struggles, or if you want to tell us about the struggles that you have had or have overcome, we are doing a bit of a research study trying to figure out what makes these programs successful and not, so that we can advise others on how to get there. So anything else that you wanted to add, Greg, before we wrap it up? I think this has been a really enlightening session for me, because dive operations is not something that I personally am super familiar with. So it gives me a lot more to talk to people about.
No, I mean, like I said, if anyone has any questions down the road, feel free to forward them to me, and I can help out the best I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for all the work you do. We really appreciate it. Thank you again so much for being a viewer of this thing every week too. So people like you who keep us going. So with that, I will say thank you again, everybody, so much for watching. If you want to reach out to us, skyfireconsulting.com. You can send us an email, send us a text, go on Twitter, Instagram. Apparently we are on TikTok now, so thanks to the young people who work here. I'm definitely not cool enough for TikTok. So. But Gregg Schkade, UAS team leader from Livingston County, Michigan, thank you again, sir, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We will sign off, and see you next time.